welcome to Bedtime Stories with OPL. I'm Miss Beth. Go grab your favorite stuffy, get comfy, and let's hear a story. This story is called Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived in a village near a forest. And she was such a nice little girl that everyone was very fond of her. When she went anywhere, she always wore a little red riding hood her grandmother had given her. So people called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother, who had just made some custards, said to her, "My dear, you shall go and see how your grandmother is, and you may take her a custard and a little cake of butter. I will put them in a basket that you can carry on your arm." Little Red Riding Hood was soon on her way to her grandmother's cottage, which was in the forest, a half-hour's walk from the village. But she had not gone far into the woods when she met a wolf. "Where are you going?" he asked. "I'm going to see my grandmother," she replied. "I'm taking her a custard and a cake of butter for my mother." "And where does she live?" the wolf inquired. "Oh," said Little Red Riding Hood, "you keep right along this road, and she lives in the first house." "Well, goodbye," said the wolf. "I'm going to be passing your grandmother's, and I'll stop and tell her you're coming to see her." Then the wolf ran on, while Little Red picked some flowers for her grandmother. When the wolf arrived at the grandmother's house, he went to the door and knocked. Tap, tap. He got no answer, so he knocked louder. Slam, slam. But still there was no response, and after a minute, he opened the door. He found not a soul in the house, for the grandmother had gone to market in the town. She had started early and had left her bed unmade and her nightcap laying on the pillow. "I know what I'll do," said the wolf. And shutting the door, he put the grandmother's nightcap on his head and got in the bed. Meanwhile, Little Red Riding Hood was coming along the forest road. She did not hurry. Sometimes she stooped to pick up more flowers, and sometimes she paused to hear the birds singing among the trees. But presently, she reached her grandmother's cottage and knocked at the door. Tap, tap. "Who's there?" asked the wolf, softening his rough voice as much as he could. "It's me, Granny, your Little Red Riding Hood," she replied. And then she said, "Are you sick, Granny? Your voice is very hoarse." "I have a cold," answered the wolf, "and I'm not feeling well enough to get up today. You can come on in." So Little Red Riding Hood opened the door and went in. "I've brought you a custard, dear Granny," said she, "and a cake of butter from my mama, and some flowers that I picked in the forest." "You can put your basket on the table and take off your hood," said the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood put the basket on the table and went to the bedside. "Oh, Grandma, Grandma," said she, "what hairy arms you have." "All the better to hug you with, my dear," the wolf replied. "And oh, Grandma, what big ears you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to hear you with, my dear," the wolf replied. "And oh, Grandma, what great eyes you have," said the Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to see you with, my dear," the wolf replied. "And oh, Grandma, what a long nose you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to smell the sweet flowers you've brought me," the wolf replied. "And oh, Grandma, what great white teeth you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to gobble you up with," cried the wicked wolf, and he leapt from the bed toward Little Red Riding Hood with his mouth wide open. But while the wolf and the little girl had been talking, the grandmother had come home from the market. She looked in at the door and saw the wolf in her bed. Then she ran to the wood pile in the yard and got an axe. Just as the wolf sprang toward Little Red Riding Hood, the grandmother rushed in at the door with the axe and gave the wolf such a blow that no one ever saw him again. And Little Red Riding Hood was not harmed at all. I hope you enjoyed our story tonight. We have lots of great stories just like it at the library, so come see where your imagination can take you. Sweet dreams!